Let me switch over to this. Hey, there we go. Hey, everybody. So, you might be surprised to see me right now. It's quite a bit later than my usual starting time, and I just kind of impromptu decided to start up the stream because I just was reading along in some news and just checking out the tech articles and yada, yada, yada. And I kind of came across one that I thought was fairly interesting, just talking about package manager for Windows, which is a little interesting. This is something I don't usually drift into, but it is a technical aspect of the job, of dealing with command line tools and stuff like that, and package software installation and package management type of stuff. So I thought that would be kind of interesting to do. I don't know what's going on with my lighting or something, but like it just keeps going. I think maybe I need to fix my camera real quick here. I don't know why, but something about the lighting, I guess, is causing it to kind of be wacko. I don't know what's the right word. It's being weird. It's starting to turn gray for no particular reason, and I'm not really sure why. I think it's the auto white balance thing. That's what's going on there. I think that's what's the primary problem. Turn that off and see how that goes. All right. So yeah, we're going to talk about. So there's this new thing that Microsoft has out, and I thought it'd be kind of interesting to talk about it real quick. I don't really plan on spending a whole bunch of time in this video discussing it, but I just kind of want to give a quick little review of these things and talk about them a little bit so that you can get some familiarity and understand what these things are, because they might be a really convenient way of getting software installed on your system. So let's transition over to my monitor here, and I do want to get a smoother transition. It's really kind of just quick over there. I got to figure out how this Streamlabs works so that you do the soft transitions. I got to figure that out. But so The Verge has this article called Winstall lets you bulk install Windows apps with Microsoft's package manager. So this is the first thing I really actually want to talk about is the Microsoft's package manager piece of this, because not a lot of people are familiar with what this even means. Right? There's I'm sure a wide variety of people out there who watch my my Programming Made Easy channel and maybe watch this channel, and you may not necessarily know what a package manager is, or what some of this terminology is that they're going to be using. So I thought I would start off by talking about the command line. So this is just the command line utility that comes with Git. When you install Git in your Windows PC, so if you go to git-scm.org, or no, it's com, that's right, git.scm.com, and you download and you install Git, which, for those of you not familiar with Git, it's a source control management system. It allows you to take source files and essentially keep copies locally on your system. But it's not really copies. It's actually keeping track of changes that you make to a particular part of your file system. And it just basically tracks those changes over time, your deletes, your updates, your changes, etc. So it's kind of like keeping these incremental, all the diffs, we call them. There's these differentials between files in your file system, and new adds and changes and deletes and stuff. And it's keeping track of all the things that are happening on your file system. And Git just manages this. And then you can kind of keep track of those changes over time, and then you can actually store those things on something we call a central repository. Central repository systems typically are things like GitHub is the most famous one. There's also GitLabs. Bitbucket is another pretty famous one by Atlassian. So there's these central repositories, and then you have your own local repositories. So anyway, don't really need to get too far into that, but understand that Git is this source control management, version management system that allows you to manage files on your system. But one of the cool things that's wrapped up in this is something called the Git Bash command line. I call it Git Bash. But it's this really cool command line tool that essentially it emulates a Linux bash command line. So instead of doing like dir, I can do dir. That still works because I'm on a Windows PC. But it also allows me to do the ls command. So if I type ls, I get those things. So dir and ls, so ls is the bash command that tells you the folder structure, right? So it's kind of cool. I can do these kind of Linux type of commands, right? And I can, make directories. A lot of the commands that you have in Bash are very similar to what you have in in the Windows command prompt, right? But there is one particular difference, and that is if I change directories here, so I'll change into my projects directory. You'll notice that we have this /, and I'm starting out in what's called the home directory, and then I have the / and then projects. So it's a little bit of a different idea, right? The layout of the folder structure and everything is a little bit different, and the folders are denoted by /, which is the same as you see on the websites, right? So it's really not that hard to translate this kind of stuff. But anyway, I'm not really trying to get into that. What I really just want to show you is that we've got this command line system here, and just for example, one of the tools. So if I wanted to see what Java was, right? I can Java version, is it? Yeah, there we go. So you can run the commands like Java -version to give you the Java version. Let's see, .NET. I think it's .NET V, right? No, is it .NET version? I can't remember. Yeah, -, version. Right, so you can run these commands in order to kind of see these pieces of software that are installed on your system. And what's really cool, though, is if you're dealing with Linux. So I'm going to switch over to another terminal that, so I've got the Winsttall 2 installed on this computer, which means that I actually have a Linux kernel running on my Windows PC. So they're running essentially side by side. They're running simultaneously, accessing the same file system and everything. So this directory here, this RINGE, so if I do a quick little ls, you'll notice that this is actually the same exact set of folders and files as when I do ls. Actually, let me do it from the project. So there's my projects under the GitHub, but I can also change directories into projects here. And this is going to give me the Linux. Like, I'm actually in Linux. I'm running an Ubuntu Linux terminal here. That is the Windows subsystem for Linux that you can install, version 2.0. So I've got these command lines, right? I've got all these commands that I can do, and I can run the Java version here. Oh, no, it's Java V. I always forget which ones are what. No, Java, is Java on here? Okay. I could have sworn it was -v. Is it not? -version, okay. Java, I thought that's what I typed. Java -version. There we go. And then there's the .NET -version. Why are they all gotta have these different ones? No, .NET's not on there. Oh, you know what? I don't have the Linux.NET installed. Matter of fact, yeah, so if I do .NET, so that's a good example. So let's say that I wanted to install .NET for Linux, right? So I'm going to go to .NET, and I'm going to install .NET for Linux. How do I do that? So if I go to the download section, I'm going to switch to Linux, and I want to install core. There's usually some sort of command line. So I'm going to use Debian, which is essentially what I'm looking for. So install .NET Core on Debian, because Ubuntu sits on top of Debian. So just know that Debian is like the root of what an Ubuntu image is. So how to install? So where do we go? So how to install the versions? Okay, so list. How to install? Okay, well, the Debian version falls out of support. Okay, that's fine. How to check if it's already installed. I already know it's not. Okay, there we go. So here we go. So this is what I'm looking for. Notice that there's this wget, right? There's this wget, or sudo apt-get is even probably better. Yeah, this is the better one. This is the full SDK install. So if I want to install the SDK, so my Linux version, my Linux image on my computer does not have .NET Core installed. Okay, when I run it on, and just to make sure that you understand there's a difference here, this is an emulator. Okay, this Git Bash is an emulator of the Bash command line, but it is actually running inside of my Windows operating system. Okay, so that's a significant difference. That's why I can do the .NET -version, and I get the version number. But if I run the exact same command over here, .NET -version, I'm going to get command not found. That's because .NET is installed on my Windows operating system, but is not installed on my Linux operating system. even though both operating systems are accessing the same file system, right? That's what you need to understand. I don't have .NET registered with my Linux install. So how do I get Windows 10, or I'm sorry, .NET Core installed on my Linux box? So I have this set of commands. This is all command line that has to be executed within my WSL terminal for my Ubuntu Bash command line. So if I just copy all of this and paste it here, I'm going to put in my password. Okay. And now we're going to actually go through and install .NET Core. Now this is going to take a while. We'll let that go and run for a little bit while I talk about this. So now you understand now that there's this package manager, and I want to focus in on this thing. Sudo is just basically an administration. Like, hey, I run this as an administrator. That's what sudo means, is run as administrator. It's actual command you can put in front of your commands that says, I want to run this as if I'm an administrator. That's why it prompted me for my password. Because saying, okay, administrator, what's your password? Because I need to authorize you. So then I get the apt-get. This is an actual command that is a package installer. The apt.get is the package installer for Linux, okay, for my Ubuntu Linux installation. So that's a package installer. Now, there isn't really an equivalent yet in Windows to this. There's one on Mac. You can get it on any Linux distribution, on any Mac distribution, all sorts of things. I run Linux Mint on a few of my PCs. I love it. But it's this apt-get that you have to run, okay? So this is how you run an installation. There's another one here called wget, which this is actually where you're pulling straight off of the web. So it's not necessarily a registered package. It's something you're actually using a web. It's a web command like curl if you've ever used curl. So you can install a number of different ways. Like here's more wget, more sudo apts, etc. But that's for Debian 9. Okay. Oh, I guess there's one for Ubuntu. Hopefully I'm getting one that is going to work on here. It should work. I don't know why it wouldn't work. It should work. But again, you see sudo apt-get update, right? So, and the actual command is this one here. The other stuff is about just updating the apt-get packages. Like, hey, go check and ping the package. Go ping the server that's telling me which packages are available, and update my registration, like all of the source that I have. Update my source information about what's available to the latest versions. Like, give me everything that's new. And then there's the sudo apt install apt transport https, which I'm not entirely sure what that command is for, but it's interesting. I'd have to double check that. I'm not familiar with all of the commands. I just copy and paste mostly. But anyway, so okay. Again, the bottom line is these are commands that you can execute, and this this apt-get is a package installer. Okay, it actually goes, and you'll notice that if we look at the command line and what we've got here, notice that we're getting several packages, right? We're not getting just one like software download that then goes and executes and installs like an MSI or an exe or something like that. We're actually getting a whole series of packages. And then those, and these are what we call dependencies, right? Or sometimes even, depends on how many layers down you call them transitive dependencies. But these are all dependencies that this application for .NET SDK requires all of these other packages. Okay, so these .NET SDKs require these other packages. So that's one of the great things about these package managers is they go and get the dependencies for you and install all of those things so that you don't have to necessarily package them up. You could just say, hey, I depend on these other things out there. Make sure that when you do the installation, you go get those things so that the package itself doesn't have to contain all of that information, right? The package itself, the .NET SDK 3.1 doesn't actually need to contain all of those things because the package manager will go and get those things because the SDK says, hey, I need those things. Okay, so it's a way of slimming down the packages and making a reference to other things that are the dependencies. It's a really nice system, and this has been involved with Linux and Mac for a very, very long time. This is not a new technology. It's just fairly recent that it's been brought over to Windows, which is why I wanted to talk about this today, is because I want you to understand what it is that they're talking about bringing over to the Windows ecosystem. So couldn't find any package, unable to locate. Well, okay, it doesn't necessarily mean it won't work. Let's try. Okay, I might have to close the terminal and reopen. Let's see if that does it. .NET version. Nope, still not there. Okay, let's try this again. Actually, let's go grab, just to make sure I get the right one. Let me copy, for it's 2.04. So copy that, paste that. Yes. I do. Okay, so let's go back to the article while that's doing that. So Winstall lets you bulk install Windows apps with Microsoft's Package Manager. So Microsoft's Package Manager is this thing that is currently not yet, it's still kind of in this beta phase. It's in public preview, they call it. I don't know why they call it public preview instead of beta. Maybe it sounds fancier. Maybe there's an actual distinction that they're trying to make between what a beta is versus a public preview. I don't know. I never really dug into the terminology for Microsoft that much. I just realized that my head is not fully. There we go. Got to drop that down. Okay. So, there's this Windows Package Manager for developers, package managers for ISVs, understanding package managers, etc. This is all great stuff. And you can, so the tool is called WinGet. So it looks a lot like wget, but it's called WinGet, right? Or the alternative would be apt-get in Linux. So you can switch over to this and take a look at use WinGet to install and manage. So we can install WinGet. Okay, so we need to, if we want to install it, what do we need to do? Search for a tool type WinGet. Okay, that's great, but how does that? Windows 8 app installer. How do I get this? Oh, app installer. Let's go get it. This brings up a screen that is, okay, install on my device. I know you guys can't see this, but it just basically opened up the Microsoft Store. Yes. I don't really want you to see all this information because it's kind of private info, but okay. Product is installed. All right. Says it's installed. Let's see if what's a command that I can execute here. And I'm going to do it over here in a Git Bash because again, I'm in Windows. Even though this looks like the Linux Bash command line tool, it's actually an emulator. Again, it's an emulator to make it look like a Bash command line on Windows. So I'm going to, let's see, it's WinGet, right? Permission denied. Ooh, okay, so sudo WinGet. Sudo command not found. What is wrong with you? WinGet. Is that the right one? No such file or directory. What am I missing here? WinGet search. Do I have to be in the command line? Maybe I have to be in the command line. WinGet. There we go. So you have to do it from the command line. So you can't do it from Git Bash. Well, that's kind of unfortunate. I'd like to really be able to do that from the Bash command line. It would be just really nice. So you can search. So let's see. What type of show info about a package? Shows info about n package. Boy, you guys are definitely in public preview, aren't you? Golly. Okay, WinGet. What would be, so .NET? I can't find it. Let's see. More info can be found. I wonder if they have, okay, so there's one for Power Toys. Let's do that. WinGet, show Power Toys. All right, so that's a package that we could install, would be PowerToys, right? So this is a software thing that I could go download and install. So how would I install that with winget? Well, I would have to say, just winget install and then the app name. So, okay, great. Let's just do that. Why not try that? So winget install, and then we want PowerToys. Okay, so we're downloading and installing, and that's basically it. Like that's all that there is to this. Okay, that's fine. That's all that there really is to this, is being able to use the command line to install things, right? And that's kind of nice, being able to just from the command line do things, especially when you're a software developer. And you can write command shell scripts, like you can write VB scripts, you can write command line batch files, right, to execute these kind of things. So if you wanted to install a series of packages, so say I'm an IT administrator and I want to make it so that all of my computers have some software installed on them, I could just create a batch file and set up some commands with this winget command to install PowerToys. And now all of the computers that have that script that execute on startup will go and install this, go install PowerToys. So that's the kind of thing that's kind of cool, is being able to just use command line. And that also means you can have software that installs software, right? So maybe you're distributing as part of your application, you say, we need these dependencies installed, to go and install them. So you can build software on top of other pieces of applications, right? If you want to deploy, say, a WAMP server, right? Or a WAMP system. So you got on your Windows system, you want Apache and MySQL and PHP, right? Just, I don't know why anybody would do that in today's world, but some of you still do. But if you wanted to install all of those things and just kind of execute them and install them, you could use a tool like winget to install all of those things. Now, we're still in preview, so a lot of those pieces of software are not yet available. But at least you guys now, I think, have the idea. Like, this is a command line tool that allows us to install software, which is not something that we've really had in a Windows environment, right? We haven't had a command line tool, except for Chocolatey, to do this kind of thing. Chocolatey is one of these things that's been around. It's actually fairly mature, that does this kind of thing, but it was not really a Microsoft type of thing. Maybe I'll give a quick little shout out to this. So Chocolatey software, there it is. So I got to give a huge shout out to Chocolatey, because I've actually used Chocolatey in my own practice for a long time. So Chocolatey is, again, a package manager, right? It allows you to run these commands to install software, and they have all sorts of different. They have lots of different software that you can use to install. Now, so Chocolatey's been in the industry for a while. It doesn't really have quite the base of people that understand it or know it. And maybe I think what's happening here is Microsoft has said, you know what, we need one of those too. Like, we need an officially supported command line tool, again, for developers like us, people who are used to several different environments. I can hop on a Mac PC. I'm not a great fan of Macs, but I will hop on a Mac. I will open up a terminal window and I can install software with it. I will go to a Linux box and I will be able to open up a terminal window and run command lines to install software. I can now go to a Windows PC, open up a command prompt, and execute this installation packages, right? I can execute an installer. So that gives a universal feel to all of us developers that like these command line tools, right? We like the ability to just hop in a command line prompt and go and install stuff and do our little wizardly type of things, right? Because that's what's amazing. We all like to pull up the command prompt, the bash tools, and type out a bunch of stuff. And ooh, isn't that cool? I know what I'm doing. Anyway, so that's kind of what I think this really is. Now, there is a bit of a problem that whenever there's a new product like this that's being served, how do you get the buy-in from the community? And I think there's some problems that Microsoft has, in that they're trying to garner more buy-in for Windows as being a viable operating system to this world of developers who has been very anti-Microsoft for a very long time. So what Microsoft is doing is they're looking at all of those things that those developers enjoy about Linux and Macs, and they're trying to emulate that in the Windows ecosystem for good reason, right? Instead of just being about the users of the system, let's actually focus on the developers who use those systems and try to be more encompassing. That's a big reason why I think we have the Winsttall, the Windows subsystem for Linux, is because it really just gives you the Linux environment. We've seen this is an actual Linux environment right here. This is a Linux kernel that actually, why can't you locate this thing? Anyway, this is an actual Linux kernel, right? This actually exists. This is Linux. And in fact, one of the things that I was tinkering around with, I don't think it's set up on this particular computer because I had to reboot and everything, but not reboot. I had to restart. I had to reinstall everything on this computer. But it does have the Winsttall 2 installed on it. But at one point, it had I had a RDP server on my Winsttall with a desktop application on it. A desktop, I forget what you call those dang things, XDCE. I had basically desktop running the Linux desktop, the small little one. And I could RDP into my Linux box that was on my Windows system. So I could actually have my Linux desktop and my Windows desktop running on the same computer, and we're not talking about a Hyper-V situation, right? We're not talking about VMware. We're talking about actual running on the hardware stuff, where that's just cool stuff to me. Like, being able to do that is awesome. But this is a actual Linux operating system. And think about that. What that really means is, why would Microsoft do such a thing? And that's because they want to pull in those developers that have been using Linux and Mac for a lot of their tools. They want to provide something on the Windows ecosystem that gives them that same natural feel. And then also, if you are a .NET developer, if you are a Windows developer, if you can get yourself comfortable with these tools on the Windows side, it's not that hard to transition over to Linux or to Mac. Right? So you can have this fluidity of your knowledge transferring to all the different operating systems. That's really cool stuff, I think. Okay, so that's great. We now have a package manager that's going to be released for Windows. We've got the Windows subsystem for Linux, right? So we got Linux kernel running in parallel, in tandem with our Windows operating system. We have all these great tools that provide us something, but we still have this hurdle of getting Windows people to use these new tools, right? How do we... Windows provides a lot of GUI type of stuff, and I love GUIs. I love the ability to have these extra sugary type of things that make it easy to interact with systems. Because I'm not, as much as I like to use the command line, I much prefer a tool that actually gives me a visual representation. Right, we've got a mouse and keyboard and a screen and monitor for a reason. Let's use this. I love the point and click. I love the drag and drop. Give me that. So what they're talking about here in this article is this Winstall application that lets you do bulk installations of Windows applications with Microsoft's Package Manager. So the underlying thing behind Winstall is the Microsoft Package Manager, and then sitting on top of that is this Winstall thing. So that is a lot of lead up to explain what is going on here, but I think it's a worthwhile discussion and an understanding to have, because this is kind of the direction. The thing that you need to understand is that this is the direction that Windows is going. Okay, this is something that has been existing in the Linux ecosystem and the Mac ecosystem for a very long time. They still have a lot of package managers that either leverage those tools like the apt-get commands, or like with Macs, they have the App Store, which just does direct installations and I don't think it uses any sort of terminal underneath it or command line underneath it. But just understand that's kind of the direction that things go, is command line tools and then some sort of GUI that sits on top of the command line. That's one of the easiest things to really, for an operating system to provide, because then people can just build all sorts of different GUI tools to plug into the command line, and all you're really doing is providing essentially an API for these GUIs to talk to and issue all these commands. So, and that's, by the way, that's the same thing with Git. If you've ever run any sort of Git, if you ever do source control with Git through like GitHub, the GitHub desktop, or VS Code, or Visual Studio, and you do any sort of these command line tools like this, there's another one called Fork. Really what's going on is under the hood of that GUI system, it's just executing Git commands. It's got the Git command line tools installed underneath it, and it's just issuing commands through essentially its own bash terminal, behind the scenes. So that's what's going on with this, is we've got this package manager that is a command line that you can talk to, and then there's this thing called Winstall that basically just calls off of that, right? Sits on top of that. So Microsoft is adding a native Windows package manager to Windows 10 soon, but it's limited to a command line interface instead of an easy-to-use GUI, right? So that's what we're talking about. While many will be happy to just be able to install apps from the command line, Tweeteen developer Mehdi Hassan has created Winstall, a web app that uses Microsoft's package manager. So a web app, okay, that uses Microsoft's package manager to let you create app packs in bulk to bulk install all of your favorite Windows applications. The ideal for developers who regularly switch PCs, enthusiasts who like to format Windows after every major update, or just anyone else who wants to quickly set up a new machine. The Winstall site lets you pick from pre-made packs or create and share your own list of apps. That could be a pack of gaming apps that includes Steam, Discord, Twitch, Origin, Uplay, and many more. Or a list of productivity apps like Zoom, Slack, and Microsoft Teams. So, this is what we're talking about. We're being able to bundle different packages of software and then just disperse them and send them out into your environment. So if you are managing a large network, this is a terrific tool, because you could just bundle up the packages and then tell people to run this command or this thing that's going to execute all the commands that are necessary to install everything. And there's literally little to no user interaction to do this. So let's take a look at this, shall we? Let's take a look at Winstall. It's similar to Ninite, and I did actually want to pull this up. So this is Ninite. This is another similar one. Install and update all your programs at once. But let's also take a look at the create Winstall. There we go. So there are packs, there are apps, etc. So let's take a look at so they got popular apps, featured packs. Oh, here we go. This is pretty good. So you can have an entire pack, right? Work from home, web browsers, essential tools, entertainment, school, social media, developers. Ooh, there's some good stuff there. Gaming packs, etc. And you can create your own pack. Okay, let's see. Let's take a look at some of these packs. Gaming My Stuff includes Visual Studio Code, Insiders, YouTube Music Desktop app, Quick Look, and more. Visual Studio, YouTube Music, Quick Look, Notepad++, Ear Trumpet, Walks, GitHub CLI, Color Picker, WhatsApp, Telegram Desktop, Signal, Zoom, and Simple Note. And if you wanted to, all you have to do, there's the script right there. That's the command that you can run. You can also, it looks like you can switch it over to PowerShell. So that's kind of cool. You can do either one. You can download it as a batch file. That's pretty cool. So I'll just save this in my downloads. I want to keep it. Keep anyway. Show in folder. Let's take a look at what this is. No, I don't want to run. I want to edit. Okay, here, let's do it in Notepad. Okay. So it's just this, right? It's just these commands that are executing in the batch file. So I could just execute this, or I could just copy this, do this, right? And I could just paste that, and I could just run this, and this would install everything. I'm not going to do that because I don't think I need all this stuff. But that's pretty cool that I can just copy that, and that's just going to install everything for me. And that's kind of the gist of this whole thing, is being able to execute these commands through the command line to do these type of installations and get just packs of everything. Let's see if I could just get one app. Let's just see if there's one app I want to get. 0AD, 1Password, 7-zip I already have. Adobe. So like, yeah, there's Adopt OpenJDK, Advanced Installer, Advanced IP Scanner. That's a pretty good one to have to make sure you're got everything cleaned up on your system. Amazon Chime. Oh, come on. There's got to be one that I would like that I don't have yet. Okay, so I could use the Atom text editor. So we'll go with that one. Let's take a look at this. So I just want to get this one. How do I could download the exe file. I don't really want to do that. I want to select this app, generate the script, and all I have to do is just copy this, go to my command line, which is over here, switch over to, I need it to be the command prompt, right? So just hit that, and let's see what happens. This application is licensed by its owner. I mean, the great thing here is I just run the command, okay? I'm not getting prompted for, other dependencies that it needs to install. I'm not getting asked to approve of anything, at least at this point. Let's see if that's going to continue to be the case. It might not be. It's an exe file, so I don't know. We'll see how this all pans out. But typically, these type of packages are kind of hands-off. Once you execute the command to install, it just installs. It might sometimes give you like a, are you sure you want to install this? Yes or no. That does kind of pop up from time to time. But I mean, from a user experience, you kind of think about if I'm an IT administrator and I want to I have this set software that I need to have all of the employees in a department have these tools. This is a great solution, right? I could just give them a batch file to execute, and often it'll install everything for me. And the total sum of the interaction that the person has is that they just have to execute it. And in fact, I could just make it part of the startup, or using something like group policy in order to execute certain commands. And yeah, that's it. So now I have Atom, which Atom, is it right? No. Where the heck is this? I don't think it would be in there anyway. Let's see if I have Atom. Yeah. So now I have Atom. Looks like this. Sure. So it's another IDE. That's all that Atom is. It's not really, it's technically a text editor like Visual Studio Code. It's not really considered an IDE. Although, in my opinion, most of the text editors nowadays are basically IDEs, but that's a whole other argument to have. But essentially, this is just another tool to do software development. But the interaction that I have with the system is to just go to the command line and execute the command, and it installs it. So that's pretty awesome. So that's just kind of what I wanted to dig into tonight was this Winstall, right? This page called Winstall that goes and looks at the applications that are currently registered with the package manager, with Windows Package Manager, and allows you to like just select them, right? And then generate a script. And then once you have that script, you can run and execute the script, and that just installs everything that you need on your computer instead of trying to go through and do everything. So I might go through, like if I'm putting something, so say I'm the DevOps guy for a team, and I'm going to be doing a .NET Core. So I will generate a script that's going to, I'm going to take off Atom when I get there. So I want to do .NET Core. I'm not going to do the framework. Okay, none of those. None of those. None of those. We'll see, what would I want? So I actually, I do want, I want to take this one off. No Atom. The Azure CLI, let's add that. Let's do, I think I can do a search here. So let's do VS Code. That's going to be one. No, it's not on here. Code. Let's try just code. Yeah, Visual Studio Code. Okay, so I just had to do Visual Studio Code. So they're going to do that. And then, yeah, I'm going to say, yeah, we also need Node, because let's just say, especially if you're doing like front-end development also, so if you're doing like a SPA application, you're going to need Node. And let's see. And then what's one more here? So let's do, so I got .NET Core, I got VS Code. Oh, well, I already got the .NET Core. Node in, let's see, what would be another thing that I would need? Let's just throw Java on here too, just for the heck of it, just for the demonstration here. Java JDK, can I do JDK? Let's do just Java. Java runtime. I think the adopt open JDK, that's the one I typically like to work with. So we'll add that one. Okay. So create pack. Oh, I have to log in. Well, that's kind of a bummer. Let's just generate a script. Okay. But I can copy this to my clipboard, or I can create a batch file, and then I can distribute the batch file and just tell any new developer to the team, hey, just go execute this batch file and you'll have all the tools that we use on our day-to-day. Hassan says, hi, Steve. I tried to install an app. I copied the script, but it shows me that the term winget is not recognizable as the name of a commandlet function script file or operable program. That's right. You have to install winget first. And the way that you install winget, I think you kind of jumped on a little late here. You have to install it. So if you go looking for... Okay, yeah. So it's under... Here, I'll just show you how to go find it. So if you just type winget, I'll go to Google. I don't usually use Google anymore, but I know that it's so ubiquitous that everybody knows how to start there. So we're going to do Windows Package Manager. And if you type that, you're going to be looking for this one here. Not chocolatey. Here, use the, yeah, go to this first one that's for the docs. So Windows Package Manager, Microsoft Docs. And once you're there, you'll see for information, here's the use. Yeah, so you're going to want to look for this link here. Use the winget tool to install and manage applications. And this will take you to another bit of documentation that you can finally get to, yeah, Windows App Installer. And this finally gets us to, you know what, maybe I could have just done this instead. Is just open up the, if you just open up your Microsoft Store, you could just do App Installer and search for that. And then you just install it on your computer. That's all you really need to do. And then once it's on there, just make sure you restart your terminal, because sometimes it doesn't, if you register it with your path variable, it doesn't always get picked up. So you have to close your terminal and reopen the terminal. You don't have to start your whole system over again or anything like that. You just have to close the command prompt and then reopen it. And then once you do, you should now be able to do the command prompt, and then I can do winget, right? And if you could do winget-v, then that, and you get this response, then you know that you have it installed. And once it's installed, that's it. You know, that's the only thing you have to have installed on the systems in order for this batch script stuff to work. And that's just kind of where this is going. Now, I would imagine that since this is in preview, you have to go to the store to get it right now, right? To install the app installer, you have to go to the Windows Store to go and install it. However, at some point when they release this thing out of preview, then it's going to come automatically installed. So you don't have to do this, right? You just have Windows be updated to the latest version of Windows. They're going to have this this winget installed on their system automatically, and so you can just distribute the batch file. You don't have to worry about telling them to install this app installer. But for now, because it's in preview, unfortunately, that's one extra step that you have to do. But again, once it's in actual full production and everybody is using it, it's gonna, I guarantee you, this is just gonna be built into the Windows operating system, just like it is for Mac and Linux, right? When you install Ubuntu or Linux Mint or Elementary OS or any of those Linux operating systems, it comes with apt-get already installed. You don't have to go and install it on top of it. You don't have to look for it to install it. It just comes with it. So that's kind of one of the really nice things about these package managers, is that they're by default included with the operating systems. So once this goes into full release, it will be a part of the operating system, and we can just execute these commands out of the box, not having to worry about it. But it's still a little bit down the road, but I just thought this is just such a cool thing for, especially for us software development geeks. And especially if you're doing like IT administration or things like that, this is going to be a terrific solution for you to just be able to have, there's a set of commands that I want you to execute to install the software, and you don't have to worry about prompting the user for input or, you know, where to install. All the defaults are basically what you're going to install with. There are probably some additional arguments you can pass into this to specify like directories for installation. So if there's any sort of things like that that need to be done, you can add those as part of the scripting. But just being able to script out the software installations is such a, come on, we're in 2020. Why haven't we had this in Windows yet? It's been a thing in Linux and Mac since the beginning. Why has it taken this long? So it's just kind of cool that it's getting there, and I think it represents kind of this larger initiative that Microsoft has towards trying to become more inclusive to that part of the development community that likes Linux and likes Macs, to like actually give them a viable, familiar, comfortable environment within Windows that doesn't feel like it's a separate thing. It feels just like the same thing. It feels like just another operating system that you would have. And just to take this out even further, I have been predicting for a while, and actually this has already been done, but I've been predicting for a while that Microsoft is their next operating system. They've already said it's not going to be Windows, right? There's Windows 10 is it. This is the final version of Windows. There will be no more versions of Windows. So if Microsoft is going to put out another operating system, what will that operating system be? And I think it's going to be a Linux operating system. I think it's going to be a Windows-flavored or Microsoft-flavored Linux operating system. And I think that the fact that we have this Winsttall 2 that they're really pushing for, and they've got the Bash command line because of that, and you know they're trying to create these tools like winget, like the fact that they're trying to do all of this stuff to be that inclusive, I think really means that there's a high likelihood they're just going to switch to the Linux kernel for their next operating system and call it something else. And that's going to be kind of the direction that they go. You look at .NET Core and the work that they're doing to .NET 5 and .NET 6, they're trying to move everything .NET over to Linux compatibility. So, you know, software development is going to be possible for Linux with the .NET stuff, which is great. VS Code is already cross-platform, right? You can install VS Code on Linux, Mac, PC. I have it on all three of my different operating systems, and I use it all the time on all three different operating systems. It feels the same. My same extensions, when I install an extension on Windows PC, it shows up in my Mac operating system. Like, that's just really cool. Microsoft, the Edge browser is another great example of this. They haven't yet released their Linux version of it yet, which is really kind of annoying. I can't wait till that happens. But just the cross functionality, I can get on my Mac and open up the Edge browser, and all of my favorites are there from my PCs. And like every PC that I have in my house has the exact same set of favorites, the exact same feel with Microsoft Edge, etc. That's just, that kind of feel is starting to happen because Microsoft is putting it together and has stopped ignoring Mac and ignoring Linux. They're trying to make it a comfortable feel and transition for everybody between all these different operating systems. And I think, again, that's part of this larger strategy that the next operating system they deliver is going to be a Linux operating system. And in fact, they already have one on Azure. They already have a Linux operating system that's on Azure. So that's like, they're already doing it. They just haven't released a public version of it for home use. That's the only thing that they haven't really done yet. So just this overall strategy, I think that Microsoft is going towards. And this Windows Package Manager is just another one of those dominoes that has to be set up in order for them to make that move, to make that transition, is to have a package manager that feels and flows just like the apt get commands, right? All of that stuff is just the same. So yeah, it's interesting times. It's very interesting times. I'm kind of glad that they're making this move. I'm glad that they're making it something that's going to feel comfortable for everybody. I hope that this gets more people on the .NET, the .NET train. I love .NET as preference. I love C#. I think it's a great platform. Blazor is awesome. Obviously there's still some kinks to work out with Blazor, but just the fact that Microsoft is thinking about all these different directions for technology right now that are developer centric it's a very different time. It's a very different time. And all the developers that I run into that are like, oh, screw Microsoft, they're a terrible company. They're just in it for themselves. And, they still have this 2005 attitude towards Microsoft, and it's just not the same place. Microsoft, it's kind of weird that they haven't decided to rename themselves, because they're not the same company. Everything that I see from Microsoft, there's still some problems. Don't get me wrong. Like, every company has some issues, and they are not exactly well known right now for their customer outreach and their developer outreach. But they've been making major strides for it. And this is just another one of those things. This is just another step on their way to making it a more viable option for developers out there that are looking for where to move their knowledge towards. And right now, I think the JavaScript and Python developers out there are currently probably the most ubiquitous out there, right? You have a lot of Python and a lot of JavaScript. There's still a ton of Java out there, Java for the enterprise, which still blows me away. The way that Oracle runs their company, it just blows me away that anybody would still have their wagon hitched to Java. But at the same time, I mean, it's a very mature language. It's a very mature, runtime. So I can kind of understand it, but just the way that Oracle's running things, I wouldn't want to associate my business with that kind of business. And then Oracle just got TikTok, which is, go figure. I don't know how that happened. Anyway, I think that's probably going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you guys learned something out of this. I thought it's pretty cool, and I think it's a really interesting direction that Microsoft's going. So if you did like this video, please hit me with the thumbs up. Smack me in the face with that thumb. Let me know. And if you also don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.